My guest is world-renowned lecturer and author and dentist, Dr. David T. Kennedy, and you were a presenter at the International Society for Fluoride Research Conference in Budapest in 1996, and you were also involved with the Canadian Dental Association Conference on the use of fluoride a year later. What was your position concerning fluoride then, and how has it changed since then, if at all?
Well, back then I didn't really have a good understanding of what the actual substance being added to the water supply was. So my approach at those meetings was simply the toxicology of fluoride. It's an element you find in the periodic chart. It's the 13th most abundant mineral on the planet, and it's a poison. It doesn't have any use in the human body. So I was talking about those impacts. Well, the substance that's added to 90% of the water supplies in the United States is a thing called hydrofluorosilicic acid. It's a man-made molecule, never occurs naturally in nature. It extracts lead from brass. It's actually got a patent on it in the U.S. Patent Office to do exactly that. And what we found is it extracts lead into the bodies of children. And so, and rats, there's rat studies too that confirm this behavior. And so when we have problems with children learning in school and all the high blood levels, especially in minority children, which is a genetic predisposition to absorb lead, and we've got a substance in the water that makes it suck up lead like a sponge, that explains the enormous amount about the decline in IQ in American children. We just had the lowest college standard aptitude test score in the history of the test. The children are becoming dumber. There's really no question about it. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to allow a program of adulterating the water with raw, untreated, hazardous waste from the mining industry that delivers phosphate to the farmers to continue? I say no. I think it's harming our country. It's actually destroying the future of so many children. It's a crime really against humanity, and so I'd like to see punishment.
Now, what other significant pieces of information have we learned about fluoride, say, that we didn't know 15 years ago?
I think the interaction between silical fluoride, which is the substance that we're all exposed to if you drink a Budweiser from Los Angeles, or if you have beer that made Milwaukee famous. All of those have silical fluoride in them because that's what's used in the municipal water. And so when you add that, you get lead into the body, and then you look at the new studies showing that lead and mercury from your fillings create an enormous impact on the health. We have 17,950 infant deaths annually in this country that we would not have if our infant survival was as good as, say, Singapore. Or we used to be first in the world in infant survival. The United States was by far the best place to have a baby because the mother lived better and the baby was more likely to survive. Now we are 42nd or 41st in the world. We're behind Croatia, for heaven's sake. And this is what the Public Health Department has done to the health of this nation in the last 60 years. We've gone steadily downward, and the reason is very clear, is that we're giving babies injections of mercury. The mother receives mercury fillings during pregnancy, and that exposes the fetus to mercury. And then we're putting silical fluorides in the water, so if your baby's born and you've got to go back to work and you make up the formula with tap water, everybody, including the dentist, admit you're going to overdose that baby with fluoride. Well, you're not only overdosing the baby with fluoride, you're overdosing the baby with silical fluoride, which is going to make that child suck up lead. And so now we've got mercury, lead, and fluoride, and you look at that whole syncytium of toxic metals. That's why we have the 17,950 babies dying annually in the first year of life, and it continues on to the fifth year of life. So we're killing a lot of our kids. If they don't die, they end up with learning disorders, dyslexias, IQ problems, inability to think and study, ADD, ADHD. It's a crime that's ongoing right now. We get denial from the perpetrators. The Public Health Service says, "Oh no, we're not doing that." Well, criminals very seldom confess. You got to catch them first, and then you got to torture them a little bit, and then they'll confess. Make a deal on that. I'll let you out in 100 years instead of 200.
There you go. All right. Oh, you weren't a prosecutor once, were you?
No.
You sound like you got the rap down pretty well. So what you're saying, though, is you're saying that the ingestion of fluoride into the population is not limited to toothpaste or to visits to the dentist, that anything that a beer which has water in it, I mean anything that has municipal water in it, you're getting an injection of that. When you said beer, I was stunned. It never occurred to me that would be one of the culprits.
And wine, it's in cereals, breakfast cereals, baby food chicken, deboned chicken is really high in fluoride. And this is because of two reasons. One, the chicken absorbs fluoride from the pesticide that's used on its food and stuff like that. And it's in the wines because of the pesticide that's used on the grape. So we've got fluoride used as a pesticide. We've got fluoride used in adulterating the water supply. Why is it in the cereal? Well, it's in the cereal because it's made in Battle Creek, Michigan, which is fluoridated. So when you process a food, so all your processed foods are high in fluoride. So when you process a food, you dehydrate the water, and what happens is the fluoride stays behind. You ever put a pot on the stove and boil it dry, there's a bunch of crusty stuff on the bottom. Well, that's all the minerals are in the water, and fluoride's in there. So whenever you process a food, you end up concentrating the fluoride in the processed food. So all your anything in a box or a can is probably going to have a substantial amount of fluoride in it if it's made in a fluoridated community.
Wow. Now, you're a member of the San Diego County Dental Society, the California Dental Association, and the American Dental Association, all of which support the use of fluoride to protect teeth. Yet, you vocally disagree with their official positions on this issue. Has this caused you any kind of problems, either politically or in pursuit of your practice or your career as an author or lecturer or anything? Has this caused you some kind of a problem?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I'm no longer a member because I've retired from clinical practice, but I made it a point to go and tell the various dental societies and so forth exactly what my thoughts were. Interestingly enough, I've lectured worldwide, 27 countries. I've never been invited to speak to the San Diego County Dental Society. And they're a little bit mad at me because I was on the board of directors, and years ago they were engaged in what's called restraint of trade. They wanted board members to file ethical complaints against a guy that had 20 dental chairs and they only had one, so they were jealous. And I said, that's not the proper function of the dental society, and resigned. And I didn't tell the guy, but he got wind of it and sued him for restraint of trade, and they had to pay him a good deal of money. So they always resented the fact that I pointed out that we are morally and ethically bound to behave in a fashion, and that they were not. And so I have been able to survive their slings and arrows. Yes, they've criticized me, but on the other hand, I criticize them. So they will not debate me. I think that's interesting. How can you tell they're lying? They're refusable. They've absolutely, utterly refused to stand up and discuss the issue of dose to an infant. They won't do it. And if you won't talk about the amount of a drug you want to give a baby through the water supply, then you must be doing something wrong. If you can't justify that, then you're doing something wrong. So the reason they won't do that is that the EPA says the dose to baby or anybody is written like 6 cents, 0.06. 6 cents, 0.06 milligrams per kilogram is the maximum dose that anybody should have, and a baby on a bottle gets about a quarter. So if 6 cents will harm an adult, giving the baby a quarter, do you think that might explain why we have the 17,950 excess baby deaths a year? We're giving the baby 4 times more than is known to cause harm. What's the sense of that? Well, if you went to your doctor and he said, well, most people I just give one of these pills to, here, you take 4. You'd say, well, how come I get to take 4? Well, I don't care whether your kidneys are damaged or your brain shrivels. It doesn't make any difference to me because I know this is perfectly safe because it's never been approved by the FDA for swallowing or anything like that. But I'm a great knowledgeable person, and I've never had any training in medicine or dentist or medicine, but I'm sure it's good. That's what the dentists are saying. They're sure it's okay.
So, let's talk about some of the adverse effects of fluoride poisoning. First off, is there some threshold beyond which you would say you are being poisoned by fluoride? You have achieved the level of fluoride to call it fluoride poisoning. And then just laundry list, what are some of the adverse effects?
Well, the first question is you're basically is called a minimum risk level. And so my personal minimum risk level is a tenth of a part per million, 0.1 parts per million fluoride in the water I drink. I won't, if it's more than that, I won't drink it. And so that makes me throw about 2/3, almost all the American beers out, but you can drink some beers from Europe and so forth. But what are the symptoms of fluoride poisoning? They're everything from brain damage to joint damage. The most common one, I actually filmed a documentary years ago in China called Crippling Waters, and that those people developed crippling skeletal fluorosis for natural fluoride in their drinking water. And that the level, if you measured the level of the fluoride in the bone, it was a little bit higher than the U.S. population, but not significantly, not a huge amount. And some of the people in our population, like people who drink iced tea, there's fluoride in iced tea too, will reach the same level as the cripples of people in China. So crippling skeletal fluorosis, there was a new study of bone cancer in young boys, and it was pointed out that the 17-year-old boys had levels of fluoride in their bone that had cancer was at the level of the second stage of skeletal fluorosis. The skeletal fluorosis is divided into 4 stages. The first stage is just little joint pain and that sort of stuff. And then the second stage is joint pain, only worse. And then, crippling is third and fourth stage. But these kids at 17 already were up to the level where they had significant levels of fluoride in their bone, actually 7 times higher than Crest toothpaste, for example.
At the age
if the toothpaste is supposed to poison the germs on your teeth, what sense does it make to have your bones packed up with the stuff by the time you're 17 years old?
At the age of 17, that's amazing. I've read that in Nazi Germany, high doses of fluoride were used to make people docile and obedient. Now, aren't the effects of fluoride cumulative? And if that's the case, doesn't that suggest that decades of water fluoridation could make the general population more docile and easily led?
I disagree with that. I've read that too, and when you ask them for documentation, they don't have it. I asked a friend of mine, Victor Fenzer, who was in Auschwitz for a number of years as a prisoner, if they used fluoride there, and he said machine guns and dogs and Nazis were enough to keep us and starvation were enough to keep us all very docile. So I think that is a made-up story, and it's often used to discredit our concern. My concern is toxicology. It's the dose. But it's true that fluoride is highly neurotoxic, and it's very active neurologically. And you can tell that because if you go to the physician's desk reference and open up the book, the PDR will list the ingredients in various drugs. And so fenfluramine, the diet drugs that ruin hearts, fluoride. Prozac, fenfluramine. Anytime you hear the word fluor, F-L-U-O, in a drug or a drug name, flux even, the stuff that you use to solder joints together, that's a fluoride-containing compound. So,
wow. So
fluoride is widely used in industry. Workers oftentimes are injured on the job by exposure to fluoride. But it's also, what is their injury? They become confused. They become mentally disoriented. And there's a study of rats where they gave the rat 1 part per million fluoride in their drinking water. And this was not silica fluoride like I was talking earlier. This is pure sodium fluoride or aluminum fluoride, either 1 part per million. And the rats had lesions in their brain, arteries, and kidneys at the end of 52 weeks. So and a rat's real tough. I mean, it takes 20 to 30 times more fluoride to kill a rat than it does a baby or a human. But on the other hand, we can damage their brain with exactly the same level that the American Dental Association, the United States Public Health Service, and the Center for Disease Control are recommending that we drink. I don't think that makes any sense at all.
Recently, the Pinellas County Commission in Florida voted to stop using fluoride in drinking water, and they're not the first, nor likely the last, county or city in the United States to do so. What's prompted this? It appears to be a growing movement away from water fluoridation. Is it all about economics, or is there something else going on?
Well, it's called political cover. They understand what's going on, so they use the money as cover. The politicians don't want. When was the last time you saw a politician besides Ron Paul confront anything? They lay low. They try to wait and see which way the wind's blowing. But they know it's causing harm to our society, so they found a convenient way to step sideways and say, well, we just can't afford it anymore. And then I guarantee you that the people that got the stuff to get rid of will be down there shortly saying, well, let me give you a grant so you can buy some more of our wonderful elixir from the pollution scrubbers.
Well,
people got the idea. They've got it figured out. It's just the politicians.
Well, now, if fluoride is cumulative, and we've been receiving it for decades and decades and decades, assuming that today, after hearing you, okay, the spigots of municipal water with fluoride were just turned off immediately. It's up. There's no more fluoride in our water. How long would it take for us to recover our health from decades of being poisoned with this?
Your health would begin to improve immediately. It'll take us 75 years, about 3 generations, for us to recover the robust health that we had 60 years ago. And the reason is very simple, is that once your body has no use for fluoride, that's why it's in your bone. So when you swallow fluoride, one molecule, if you've got good kidneys, one molecule goes out through your kidneys, and the next one goes into your bone. About 50% of the fluoride stays in your bone, probably for your lifetime. Especially in women past menopause, they can't get rid of it. The bones don't turn over. So it's in there for life. And that's why you see all the hips and joints being replaced, the bad knees, the bad shoulders, and all that stuff. That won't go away right away, and it especially won't go away if people still use fluoridated toothpaste. The whole thing is a complete, total, utter scam. There's no benefit that is worth risking your health for by brushing your teeth with fluoridated toothpaste. You have on one of your supporters is a nice biocompatible toothpaste that has myrrh in it. Myrrh is an element that was one of the things that they gave Jesus in the manger 2,000 years ago. It's an old herb. It's a safe herb. So why don't we use those? Why do we have to use hazardous waste from a phosphate fertilizer company to brush our teeth with? It's insane.
And you know what? Okay, answer the question. Okay, under the circumstances of what you've said, and what you've said is apparently very documented, why is it that we're not doing that? Why is it that we're not using myrrh, or in my case, I have Melaleuca toothpaste, which has, no fluoride or anything in it. So why aren't we as a society doing that?
Marketing. It really has. And where did the California, that we have a thing called Prop 65, the committee said, well, fluoride seems to cause all the things that are associated with cancer. We have to nominate it. They nominated it as a carcinogen. The California Dental Association immediately spent $200,000 to lobby the committee to not actually make it go the final step to make it a carcinogen, and they succeeded. 6-0 was the vote last week to not a carcinogen. It still causes cancer, but money made it go the other way. Well, where did the California Dental Association get $200,000? They got it from a gift from the manufacturers of fluoridated toothpaste. They got it from the people that got fluoride that they're putting in products for people to put in their mouths. They got it because it would be bad for sales to have a little label on that tooth. And by the way, this product contains a substance known to the state of California to cause cancer.
In other words, follow the money.
Money.
Now, you're not the first dentist I've spoken with who has had this attitude, and it seems like more and more people, professionals and laymen alike, are changing their views on the use of fluoride. Now, all my life I've been told it's good for your teeth and all that, and I never thought twice about it. Is there some, in your opinion, 100th monkey type syndrome going on here? I mean, why now? Why are more and more people apparently changing their views on fluoride?
Well, it has been a long, slow, steady process. There were people back in 1945 that when they started this lie that were criticizing it. But what's happened with the help of the National Academy of Science in 2006, they did a thorough review of fluoride, and for the first time since this whole lie began 60 years ago, they said they developed dosages that they say cause harm. And that's, the EPA has one that says, I gave you an example earlier, 6 cents is how it's written, 0.06. But they also showed that as little as a penny would harm an infant that was deficient in iodine. So now you're giving the baby 25 times more than is known to cause harm. So all of a sudden, when you start talking about dose, the myth that swallowing fluoride is blown away, and the research published in the Journal of the American Dental Association said that it works topically, not systemically. That means like sunblock. you smear it on your skin, you don't drink it. And so the whole lie about how you had to put it in the water was just that, a lie. There's no reason to swallow fluoride. So as more and more people become aware of the fact that even the advocates admit it only works topically, and I say they allege it works topically because they don't have good evidence it works topically. The effect is minimal. I can show you iodine would work a lot better.
Well, I would also question, their standards for making these determinations because
they shouldn't be allowed to make those determinations. They're a bunch of liars and they're making money off of it.
Well,
that's like.
Yeah, that means it's a vested interest. All right, we're almost out of time. We're almost out of time, but I want to make sure I get this in. How do people learn more about this, about the dangers and risks of fluoride, and how can people get more involved in the movement away from water fluoridation?
Away from water fluoridation, and we have an organization here in San Diego. We've got a Facebook. It's called SDSDW, San Diego for Safe Drinking Water. Just the initials, SDSDW.org. And that's at San Diego for Safe Drinking Water. We've got a very active group here in San Diego. We're glad to direct you to the rest of the places. There's links all over that page for the whole world. You can join our Facebook. You can talk to us. And if you want to ask me a question, go on my YouTube channel. It's David Kennedy DDS, DavidKennedy DDS on YouTube. And then you can go to my channel, go to Poison Babies, and see the story of that, and ask me a question if you got any kind of question.
Excellent. My guest has been Dr. David C. Kennedy. The website, if you want to get more information on this, www.sdsdw.org. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. The best of luck with you. I'm on board, that's for sure.
Glad to have you, and glad to have you on board.
Thanks so much.